What's up, everybody? You got the TheCarMan today. We're going to be discussing. I got a 96 Explorer here, and it's got a real bad, terrible miss. But as it's running, I'll fire it up for you. You can definitely hear the air, huge air leak, and it's coming from the EGR tube. Now, I've already done some investigation on this, so I've got a little bit of an idea of what's going on. Apparently, somebody's tried to at some point put some JB weld around the tube seal, which is a rubber gasket that's not going to work. My guess is a failed seal. Anyway, in this video, we're going to determine, we're going to go over how to remove the air intake. We're also going to get into the EGR tube and how to remove the EGR. This one's already been done. It's got a brand new one on it. Of course, didn't fix the problem, but easy enough to do. And since we're already going to be there, we'll touch base. Before I get started, I want to show you what this car actually runs like. Being it's going to be kind of a lengthy process. Now listen, you might be getting a code for a stuck open EGR valve, system too lean. There's no telling what code you're, something with the EGR. But if you're hearing the, if you're definitely hearing the hissing from a intake, then you need to get you some carburetor cleaner and start going around and everywhere there is on this intake, and you need to see if there's any kind of leak or breach, because that's what you got to fix. It will cause multiple misfires. It will make a Ford run like total crap. So what we want to do right now, I guess, let me show you what it sounds like, and then I'm going to take you through the process of actually replacing it. Now, I went down to the junkyard. This is ultimately a $200 car, so I don't really care. But junkyard's a great place to recycle parts. I got an EGR tube and a upper intake plenum for 30 bucks. But it's a pick apart. I'm sure you can find them online if you gotta have it. But we'll go into those parts quite exclusively and intently as we go through them and make sure you got a clear understanding of what's going on. The reason I'm making this video, this is a common problem with Ford, and if it can help you out, that's what we're about. If it can save you money, I'm all about it. Alright, so let me put you on pause and start this nice little jewel and see what you're looking at. Alright, hang on. Oh, by the way, also, if you happen to have a scan tool, you're going to be getting a real high fuel trim after you start up. This one's actually at 44%, which tells me there is a massive air leak in this car. Now, I can tell you exactly where it's at because I've already found it, but I will point it out as we're pulling it off from the EGR tube. Meanwhile, let me keep you, one last point. If you're smelling really raw fuel in the back, that's also a sign too. So, you can smell it, you can hear it. Carburetor cleaner, look for the leak. You got me. Alright, meanwhile, let me get this thing started. Alright, I'm putting you on pause. Yep, guys, don't worry, it's just a little pause. Alright, guys, so there we are. I'm kind of keyed into, this is the area right here where it's leaking. You can't really see it, but I'm going to put my finger here. And if you look down right below, that's the EGR valve, but it's the tube that's coming into the plenum that's giving us the problem. Meanwhile, I want to show you what the car's doing, just in case you have the similar effects. Keep in mind, it's a Ford, so get ready. I don't know if you can really see it shaking, but it is definitely shaking. Let me pan back. Yeah. Can you hear that hiss? Now, if I actually had enough carburetor cleaner left, I will attempt to do this. Honestly, I don't think I got enough left. I don't. You know what? This will work too. It's not quite as fun, but it'll work. You hear the change in the pitch in the engine? Now, I don't want to put too much WD-40 in it, but you get the point. I just wanted to see if there was a change. There is a slight change, but it also is sucking up air, so anyway. See it right here? Now this right here is already off. That's your dual pressure sensor. That's a piece of the EGR. I don't want to get too crazy, but the silver lining down here is the EGR tube. And then you have a solenoid as well, which is right here. Okay, so just chill out for a second. I'll put you on pause. We'll get started. Okay guys, so the first thing you want to do is disconnect your battery power. You know, in the world of shit happens, shit can happen. So just go ahead and just take it off. It's an 8mm, lefty loosey, righty tighty. You know the story. This particular one is not the right battery, however, as I can deduct just from looking at it. This kind of reminds me of the Escape battery. Oh yeah, see how tight she is coming off? So this car does not have the correct cranking amps, I'm assuming. Alright, good enough. Okay guys, so we're going to move on to the next phase. First thing is battery. Check. Move it on. Alright guys, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the upper intake, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like with the JB weld, I feel like the tube's going to be stuck in there. I'll explain that to you later as it comes out. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is take off the upper intake. And first thing I'm going to do is take that flathead off of the hose, and I'm sure there's one on the opposite side. So just sit tight and let me get the flathead, and we'll take that off. And then we're going to take off the throttle body and disconnect the throttle position sensor, or the IAC, whichever one that is. I think it's the IAC. So we'll take this sensor off. We'll disconnect this sensor, take the throttle body off, and take this tube off. But first things first, let's take the tube off and come right back to you. Okay, just turn down the 2 screws, but you also have an IAT connection. That's for the temperature sensor. It's going to be monitoring right here. It should have had a little tab on it. Somebody's already been here. There's a little bit of one left. See how it kind of moves? You just kind of push it down and slide it off. Just want to make a point of that. And then you want to set that out of the way because it's quite essential to your trips computer, your car's computer, to monitor it. And then as you see, we got another hose here. Another breather hose. Meanwhile, okay, so that's where we're at now. This cover right here, it should be bolted on there. I'm guessing a couple 10mm should be sitting right over your. There you go. But I guess that's something I'll have to address later. Go ahead and take those 2 off. I'll get back with you, and we're going to turn around and we are going to disconnect your throttle cable. And then we're going to disconnect this sensor, and then we're going to take off the throttle position sensor. So just sit tight, and you should have those first 2 items done by now. Alright, cool. Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to do is take the cruise off. As you see, I just disconnected it. It's right here. You see this little tab right here? So when you're looking at the bracket, you're going to see that little hole. Push this little tab right here. Is going to be sticking through the hole. Hold on, let me get it for you real quick without making you too drunk. See that little tab? It's going to be through that hole. You just push that tab, slide it forward, and then to take it off of the end of the throttle cable. Hold on, let's don't mess this. It's getting crazy here because you can't see nothing. Alright, here we go. Alright. So let's get this back to where it's kind of supposed to be. Lordy. Let me just kind of put this for illustration purposes. I'm going to kind of set that back where it's supposed to be. Okay. At the very end of that, you'll notice a little hole. And if you look right here, you see a little hole. And you see how it clips. So when you slide this up, well, I've got to push the, I don't have enough hands to do this right now. Anyway, you slide this up. Pretend I just pushed that hole and slid it up. We're going to pop this loose and slide it forward, and off she comes. Alright, so let me just go ahead and get back to bases on that one. Alright, give me 1 second and we'll handle the throttle cable. Okay, so now we're just dealing with the throttle cable. If you look, this thing's got 2 tabs on it. I already pushed them and slid them back. And then at the other end, you'll see where it's attached to the throttle body. That's just on by compression, so no problem. Just take a little something, pop it loose, and then up here, let me get a little closer, we'll just feed that back through. Let me show you this little guy right here. You see the little ears? So you just squeeze them, just like that, and feed it back through, and you're done. And you see right there in the back, it's actually held on. It'll just slip right out of that. You'll need a flathead just to kind of open that up and slide it out, because you will be removing it because it's off the intake. Now, keep these things out of place. Alright, now we're going to handle this throttle body guy, which 1, 2, 3, 4 should be it, and it probably has 1 connection on the bottom, which I see. We'll take care of that when I get it off. Meanwhile, we're got an electrical connection here. We've got a tube coming off the bottom. 4 bolts, they look like probably 8 millimeters. Meanwhile, let me get on this and I'll come back and show you how I did it. Okay guys, so the throttle body is now off, and throttle position sensor is just a push down. This one's actually broke, so I guess I don't know what it, maybe change the end when I put it back together. On the bottom, see if you can see that little guy. So it has one of these, and on the outside of it, it's got little catches, so you would just squeeze it together and slide it back. That's how that actually locks. And then this slides off, and the tube is located, as you see, right there on the bottom. Meanwhile, taking a look at this thing, does need a little cleanup. Always clean up your throttle body when you get a chance to. Just good, because this butterfly in the middle can just get sticky over time, and just not a good scene. Meanwhile, also, which I'll clean on my other one when I get it, but the idle air controller on the side, I'm going to, on my other intake, I'm going to make sure that's nice and clean as well. Meanwhile, since we are switching the intake on this one, I'm going to be taking the bracket off. That's an option. You don't have to. And then we're moving over to the coil, and we'll get into that. So, looks like it's more of the same on the little bracket, and also there is a wiring bracket right here. Little tab. So that looks like maybe, you know what, I'm going to take it off and I'll tell you what it is. So I'm taking the bracket and this tab off, and I'll report back in a second. Okay guys, the bracket has been removed. It is a 10 millimeter. So now at the top we're down to 2, 4, 6 intake bolts. This one actually holds the bracket, just a wire bracket. And one of your other intake bolts back here, kind of see it. It looks like it's holding the coil, but it's not. It's just beside it. Now, to remove the coil, one of the first things that might actually help you is you got to determine whether you have a single overhead cam or a 4.0 push rod. Mine is the 4.0 push rod. So, or the 4.0, it'll say single overhead cam if you have it. So either one. Let's go ahead and mark our plug wires. Usually, if you know, it just makes it faster, because you don't got to chase down the other end of it to see where it's actually plugged at. But there you go. Mine is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if it's the other one, it starts at 4, 6, 5, 1, 2, 3. And as you see, I have labeled mine 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, even though you really can't make it out there. Now, to take them off, no big deal. You just compress them. There you go. So you should be able to just squeeze them. Pops off. It'll be fastened. The actual coil is going to be on by a T25 Torx bit. I recommend a little 1/4 inch drive socket with a T25 attached. A little extension, little rig, kind of like Something I should already have laying around here. So let's see if I've got one handy. Here it is. I knew I had it, but I lose stuff so quickly that, anyway. So we're going to mark your plug wires. Take your coil off. It also has a snapping slider on the top of it. Trying to make sure you'll see it. You may not be able to see this one, but you just pick up the tab. That's your electrical connector, and she is a little snug, but she is coming. There it is. Get it in the light. You're just gonna. That's it. That's all you do is pick it up and slide it out. All right. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go ahead and pop all these off, and then we're going to remove the actual coil. God help us all. I'm running out of legs and arm strength here. Alright, give me a second to pop that coil loose. Like I said, it's 4 T25 bolts, and we'll come back to you in just a second. Alright everyone, so the coil is now removed. I've just got the bolt sitting in there. I just want to give you a good idea of what you're looking at. These right here are Torx bit 25s. They come out very easily. And then I went ahead and removed also the 13mm bolts from the intake, so the intake's actually sitting in here loose. You will notice down here though, you see that bracket that the coil is sitting on? Let's see if I can get you on that right there. It's just kind of metal. Let's see if I can light you up back there. Yeah, there you go. So you can kind of see it a little bit anyway. See like the little rusty mark. Anyway, so there's a 13mm that mounts it on the back side and two that actually go it on the intake. I just bent it up a little bit because it's real pliable, just to let the intake slide out instead of, because the one on the other one that's on the side of the manifold is just kind of a pain in the butt to do. So meanwhile, let me get set up here and I'm going to show you how the other half of this thing works. And pretty simple if you're actually removing the intake. So give me 1 second. Alright guys, it's time to go ahead and show you how the other half of this thing works. How the other half lives. First thing you see up here is the idle air controller. Unless you're switching out the manifold, just leave it on there. There's electrical connection right on the back. The next thing you'll see kind of mounted, which I've already removed, is this goes with your this is a dual pressure sensor right here, and basically it monitors the this is how your car knows whether or not the EGR, which I'm actually trying to get down there and show you. See, it connects right to the, see that EGR, the black down at the bottom. May have a hard time actually physically seeing it. I'll touch it. So that's your EGR. So this right here connects to that. But anyway, it's just 2 7mm, and that'll actually slide off. And then you're going to have a little solenoid. It's just hanging off a little rubber mount right here. See it? That's 7mm, just those two, and you can just kind of slide both of those off. This is real simple. Vacuum hose, which goes to the EGR system, and then another vacuum hose, of course, goes to your brake booster. Pretty important. Just take your time when you take that one off, because you don't run any splits in that hose whatsoever. And if you see anything that makes it look rotten, go ahead and replace it. Now, if in fact this is pretty much all you got on this side, with one exception, the actual EGR tube, which has fallen out of this now when I picked it up, but I'm actually going to show you what it takes to remove the EGR tube. Now, if in fact you do not want to, if all you want to do is remove the EGR tube, which is from here to the EGR valve, and that's where that big whistling comes from, you don't need to take off the manifold at all. You can actually just simply Down here on the EGR, it's got two 10mm bolts on the bottom of it. You can pull that back. And then the oil dipstick has got a 13mm sitting on top of it. Some of them I've actually seen with a 12, but this particular one had a 13. And then you'll see the neck of the oil tube sitting on top of it, and you have to slide that up, and underneath it's a hidden bolt. And at that point, that will actually indeed free this, and your tube would slide right out. Meanwhile, let me show you how the stud under here looks like, so you got a real good idea when you're taking off the EGR tube. Because the EGR tube is actually mounted to the same place that the oil dipstick tube is, but with a different bolt just on the same stud. Alright, so let me pull that out and let you take a look at it. Alright guys, so this is what you can't see down in that dark crevice. This is actually an EGR valve. So this is where I was showing you down at the bottom. It's got the little airline on top. Oh, there we go. Sorry guys. Alright, so there, you'll see the little airline goes on top. The EGR valve looks just like a mushroom. And if you were going to be removing the EGR valve, this bolt right here is a 1 1/16. But I don't actually recommend that. I actually recommend you use a deep penetrating spray like Deep Creep by Seafoam or whatever your favorite one is, and give it a day or so and just soak it. And then actually use a, actually I'll just show you. Alright guys, so what you'll see there is a pipe wrench, and it's not actually a really big one. I kind of use a smaller one to be able to do it because there's not a lot of room in it. Also, if you have to knock off this mushroom head if you're replacing the EGR, just because sometimes this is such a pain in the ass, but you can take a screwdriver and just knock you a hole in that and just use that same screwdriver to cut the whole top of that off, and you will find three, kind of like on a triangle, like I probably have that around here somewhere, just trying to think of where it's actually at. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure what to do with it. Anyway, you take the mushroom head off of this. You can just cut it, you know what I mean? Just kind of knock a hole in it and then just keep going around it. And you'll have those 3 Torx bit screws that hold it on. And you can take that off, and then you'll just be dealing with this. You see the triangle right there? See, there's 3 screws that actually hold it. 1, 2, 3. So if you cut the top of that off, you can use a Dremel tool. You can use anything. It's just real thin metal. It's nothing serious. You can take that, pop it off, and then, of course, you can see you'll have room at that point to take off this EGR. This is only if it's real bad. Like, see how stuck that is, which is it's just ridiculous. I don't plan on reusing this, so I don't really care. But if, in fact, I was going to do this, this is what I would do. I would soak that bad boy, use a pipe wrench, take it off. And you can see the bolts, how they actually mounted underneath. There you go. And those right there, I don't know why. You notice that one right there seems a little small. It is a little small. They're supposed to be 10mm. But I think somebody at some point in time switched that out. I'm not sure. I got to figure out what's going on there. But anyway, that's how it works, guys. It comes down to this little stud right here. And no one knows... Well, unless you do these pretty regularly, a lot of people don't know that stud is actually hidden because the oil dipstick has a little triangle piece of metal that goes over it, and then it has a bolt on top of that. So you take the first bolt off, then you pull off the piece from the oil dipstick tube. What I usually was what I almost always have to do, because there just isn't any room, you can put a long ratchet down there and use the end of it to kind of catch under the bottom of it and to pull it up over this. If you wiggle a little bit, there'll be enough room. And of course, take the stud, and this stud right here just came out, and every one I've ever do, the stud always comes out, but it's actually designed for you to be able to use another bit to take it out, but you know, it's just a stud. Whatever, guys. So there you go. That's the secret to the removing an EGR. And 1 1/16 is, if you were just going to replace the EGR, you just need 2 10mm bolts. And then this right here is your EGR pipe. And that is a 1 1/16, but as I recommend, use nothing but a pipe wrench because everything else is going to slip off and you are going to bust the shit out of your fingers. But hey, do whatever how you want to, baby. I'm just like here for the entertainment purposes only. Meanwhile, take you one last look at this thing. Appreciate you guys keeping us busy, all your questions and everything, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't, and looking forward to talking to you again. Always support the military. We always do. And 2 thumbs up to you guys in uniform. Appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. Meanwhile, it's on to the next video caper, which as you see, I am doing by myself. Which makes for a really bad videoing, but kind of entertaining for myself. Alright, peace out, my brothers and sisters. Nothing but love from the TheCarMan. See ya!